Hi. Welcome. This is our half-year update on the activities of the RIST activity group. The RIST activity group meets every Wednesday at 11 a.m. and I will bring it up again at the end because we are always looking for more participants. So anybody who's thinking they're interested in RIST and hasn't been attending, feel free to attend. I would like to start off by thanking our most active participants over the last year. You can see everybody's name here. These are the folks who have been heavily involved on a weekly basis. We have had some others who've attended a limited number of meetings, but these are the folks that are there almost every week, week in, week out, and desperately need to get a life outside of RIST. So far, RIST, we have published numerous documents, including several revisions as we find problems, as the technology changes, as we come up with better ways to do it, we will go back and we will make changes. You can see that in terms of several of the documents like TR06-2, which is the main profile, where we are currently on our 5th version. Technology doesn't stand still and neither do we. With the originals and with revisions and originals and revisions in 2021, 22, and 23. Also, the advanced profile. We are on our 3rd revision, keeping it current. You know, if you stand still, you get run over. And actually, I will take this opportunity as we talk about updates and changes to make a plug, as was just mentioned, VidTrans, the primary topic this year. Will be IPsec. A lot of what we are doing is going in and finding ways to make things more secure, and that's what you have to do in the world that we live in right now. If you stand still, you get run over. Documents we've done within the last year. We did another, like I said, revision of the main profile, 2020 TR06-2, where we have a 2024 update that we did this year. We also have an update of TR06-3, which we did this year. New documents we've published, TR06-4 Part 4 on decoder synchronization. If you're doing remote production and stuff like that, you need to keep everything synchronized and timed. You don't want to cut between cameras and have your timing be different. So that's something that we have been working on, and we published that this year. We also did TR06-4 Part 6, which is transport stream program selection, having to do with what you do when you have multiple channels and multiple portions to it. We are continuing to work on things. Work continues on satellite hybrid, something I mentioned 2 years ago. Actually thought that might be finished sooner, but things go in one order and come out in a different order, which almost sounds like a sub portion of RIST to itself. But we are continuing to work on satellite hybrid. What do you do in a mixed environment? You have satellite and you have a terrestrial internet link, which backs up which? Do your packets go 2 different ways? Increasingly important as C-band satellite becomes harder and harder to get a hold of because more and more of the spectrum is being handed over to the mobile world. In fact, 2/3 of it was just handed over. So stuff has to fit in an increasingly smaller space. You have to go to KU or KA, and that tends to not work in the rain. Actually works better up here in New York than it does down in Atlanta, where we get heavy thunderstorms daily. Open source RIST or Liberist. I mean, you're all familiar with Liberist. We've been asked to generify that a little bit, so we're often referring to it as open source RIST. Folks are working on that. It is one of the very common implementations of RIST. People take Liberist or whatever, roll it into their product. Not something that we go back and validate. They take it. It's like any open source stuff. They do what they want with it. Hopefully they don't mess it up. We can get into debates as to whether open source is something that's carefully handled and handheld and is taken care of is better. Individual opinion. RIST control. How do you operate in a control? How do you handle all the parameters? How does stuff interact? How do you handshake? And then congestion control and ARQ best practices. All this stuff is great, but how do you get it through the internet? How do you deal with an environment where maybe you don't have enough bits? How do you maximize the ARQ, which is one of the main elements of RIST? How do you deal with that? Different people have different ideas. We're trying to put some recommended practices around that. And quick, which is Adi's, one of Adi's favorites. Is Adi hiding behind Adi's hiding behind the post over there. Trying to roll quick in. Once again, take a standard internet set of protocols and encapsulation and use that rather than reinventing the wheel. And then RIST in WebRTC, something Sergio is working on. Once again, it's semi-related to open source. It's semi-related to Liberist. It's getting tongue-tied here. But anyway, it's using RIST for that functionality. So once again, as I said, getting back to the highlight, the RIST activity group meets Wednesday at 11 a.m. I'm sure there's some of you here who'd love to be involved with RIST and have nothing else going on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. And even if you do, forget about it. RIST is better. You want to be involved with RIST. Feel free to call into our meetings Wednesday at 11 a.m. and become part of the RIST community. I'm sure you have needs for it. I'm sure there are many wonderful things you want to be able to do. Does anybody have any questions?